Welcome to the Harmony Channel. Thank you so much for joining me here. We're going to continue the conversation about Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders. And there's certain aspects that I thought were better over here and better than talking about it with Steve Kim. It's a conversation you and I can have a bit more from a biblical perspective and point of view. I want to quit looking down here and make sure I'm focused in on you guys. But I want to start this part of the show off with a comment from Dan Orlovsky that was talking about the benefits of being Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son. And people kind of arguing that there's all these ramifications to being Deion's son, and he should be immune from those negative ramifications while receiving all the positive aspects of being Deion's son. Let's play SOT number 11. It's the Dan Orlovsky comment about Daddy Deion.
I got to push back onto because you just waxed for 60 seconds about how the pedigree and where he comes from and being Deion's son and all the positives come from that or that have been kind of shined on him. But then in the same breath say, I don't want him to be penalized for being Deion's son. We can't have it both ways. If we're going to laud praise on him for being Deion's son and the understanding and the pedigree that Stephen A. brought up and the characteristics and how he's been molded because of his father, okay, and those are all things that have been benefits to him and that will probably be in the NFL, we can't sit there and say, well, it's held against him as well. Because while his dad was one of the greatest ever, Shedeur's not that right now physically. He's not this remarkable, rare, unbelievable unicorn athlete.
That's Dan Orlovsky keeping it real. But he pivoted into a conversation about he didn't get his father's athletic gifts. I want to pivot into a conversation of he didn't get pushed out of the cocoon at the proper age, and perhaps that's working against Shedeur Sanders. There is a process of maturation, there's a process of development where a man, a boy, becomes a man and he gets pushed out of the cocoon. And so most people, that happens at age 18. You graduate from high school. You go off to play college football or basketball or baseball or soccer someplace else outside of your parents' control. You join the military. You go off and do the rite of passage from age 18 to 22, and then you come back home a man. Deion, out of his own desires, never gets his son out of the cocoon. He actually uses his son to some degree, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying he's using his son. Doesn't have to be negative, but Deion uses his son to get a job at Jackson State University, and then uses his son and Travis Hunter to get a job at Colorado. And Deion said, I'm Deion Sanders. I didn't have to use them. I'm one of the greatest football players of all time. If there's no Shedeur, he doesn't get these opportunities. If there's no Travis Hunter, he damn sure doesn't get the Colorado opportunity. And so he's needed these two boys. And look, I'm not saying it's all negative, but I'm saying there's a consequence for his son, Shedeur. People are looking at and evaluating Shedeur under like, hey, how's he going to handle not having his dad around? Not having his dad's shoulder to cry on? These are real issues that have to be talked about because, trust me, as an executive and as a head coach, you think about these things. I'm going to draft a quarterback, significant player who's never been coached by anybody but his father. And he's now 22, and he's worth millions of dollars. And his dad's personality is the personality of a defensive back or a wide receiver, not the personality of a quarterback. And his dad, being one of the greatest players and now being a somewhat successful college coach, will have real strong opinions, credible opinions on how we're developing and using his son. And trust me, with all of these players, particularly at the quarterback position, but regardless of anything, they got an uncle, they got a father, they got a mama that has strong opinions about what's going on with the football team. And they interject themselves into those conversations. This happens with all of them, but not all of them have the credibility of being Deion Sanders, one of the 10 greatest football players of all time, someone with access to a platform to go at you or expose you. I can't believe I forgot this. But one of the biggest red flags that Deion has sent out that any coach, executive, even ownership should be afraid of is the video that surfaced when they had a pro day at Colorado and Deion publicly ripped the scout and the directions the scout was giving at pro day. That's the nightmare scenario that every coach, organization is afraid of. Hey, we can't do what we want to do because Deion is second guessing us from afar, and Deion called out a scout at the pro day and embarrassed him. If this is what we're going to be dealing with, just a pro day and how we run drills, and Deion coming in, I'm smarter than all of you. Don't you know I'm Deion Sanders? I'm the greatest coach. I'm the heir to Nick Saban, and let me tell you how you should be doing things, running this pro day. Deion has no humility. And he's also, and this works in combination, incredibly insecure. Because a secure person doesn't beat his chest after winning a game at TCU. A secure person doesn't embarrass a scout at a pro day. A secure person doesn't wear gold chains and call himself by a nickname at nearly 60 years old. It just doesn't happen. And I know that there's some of you watching and some of you that believe like, well, what do you mean? This big gold chain that I'm wearing isn't a sign of security? It's not a statement of confidence? No, it's actually the opposite. And people won't tell you that because they don't want to be called racist or an Uncle Tom or a sellout. But Shedeur Sanders showing up last night on draft night, I mean, huge diamond encrusted chain wrapped around his neck. It's like, holy cow, this boy is insecure. He's just like his daddy. He's insecure. And yes, Deion calls himself Coach Prime, and he pretends to be this hyper-confident person, but he's not. And he's given his son the same radical materialism, the same insecurity that afflicts Deion. And I know people last night when I talked about the gold chain, here's Jalen Hurts and his big gold chain. And I like Jalen Hurts. And I think that he's certainly got more leadership credibility based on the way he handled things at Alabama and then transferred to Oklahoma and had success. But any of these guys that you see with these big diamond chains and all this jewelry on, that's insecurity. They're screaming, I have no confidence, and I must weigh myself. I must walk around with $250,000, $300,000, $500,000 worth of jewelry on myself to feel valuable, to feel worthy. I must throw my wealth in other people's face to validate myself. No one will tell you that. No one will go on ESPN or Fox Sports or any NFL network and say like, hey guys, you're telling on yourself. You're making a fool of yourself. You're screaming you're insecure. No one will do that. It's too high risk. But you've made jewelry an idol. You've made yourself an idol. You're dressing yourself. I want to be a statue. I want everybody to look at me. And that's all these guys, and their fancy clothes and their jewelry. When you enter into a biblical worldview, when you really humble yourself and look and you start evaluating, what am I doing to distract from God and focus attention on myself? And the phoniness of Deion and the lack of maturity as it relates to his walk, it annoys me and I call it out. And he's afflicted his son with this deal. But anybody proclaiming Christ while dressing themselves up as an idol, while trying to draw attention to themselves everywhere they go. So when they show up, it's like, hey, let me talk about that watch you have on. Let me talk about that chain you have on. Let me talk about that wild hairstyle you have. Let me talk about that suit you have on. While proclaiming a faith. And so men that dress themselves up this way, it's very narcissistic. I'm telling you what I know from my own experience. I used to do these things. You're distracting. When you show up and you're a believer, you want people to see the Jesus in you and to be like, how can I get you in a conversation about, hey, where's your humility coming from? Where's your confidence coming from? Where's your wisdom coming from? Not how much did you spend on that chain? When you show up on draft night in that chain, you're telling people to ask me about this diamond encrusted chain I have on. This is very worldly. This is very narcissistic. And the quarterback position is a leadership position. It's a position that requires a humility that Shedeur Sanders is going to struggle to tap into. So Shedeur Sanders last night, after not getting drafted and going through the embarrassment of that, building a room for his first-round draft pick and these hats and all this other stuff, he spent the night rapping. And this is the curse of Deion. These are the daddy issues that have to be addressed. Deion was a defensive back. He was a baseball player. He was a wide receiver. He was a punt returner. He was a rapper. And so now his son, playing the quarterback position, wants to be all these things that Deion was. Deion made rap songs about radical material. It must be the money. Deion claims this faith, but that's not what he centers. He centers at all times Deion. And you can get away with it. They've built a little world in the NFL where you're a defensive back, you play on an island, you just do your little job and no one else matters. Wide receivers out there spread away from the football, away from everybody else. You just do your little job. That's where Deion excelled, drawing attention to himself. Quarterback position, touches the ball on every play, expected to be a leader. Everybody else has to feed off his energy. And Deion has given his son defensive back energy, a narcissism that scares people. And so not getting drafted in the first round is a blessing for Shedeur. It's a blessing for the organizations that passed on him in the first round because now they're feeling less pressure to make him their franchise quarterback and to center him. But because you don't want to center a rapper at the quarterback position. And maybe one day a rapper will be the best quarterback in the NFL. Maybe they'll dumb football down to such a level that you can be an idiot rapper and a successful quarterback in the NFL. But here's Shedeur rapping last night on draft night.
I got a man just come and talk to me. I've been thinking about dogs, man, it's all me. Got to go get some on my nigga, stay shining. It's never out around my jury, chasing climbing. I went and got the new man, back, I stay grinding. 20 bucks on my AP, perfect timing.
God, we can listen. That's just him being a kid, and this is what kids do. But you can't, at the quarterback position, you can't do everything you would do as a wide receiver and cornerback. And so, if that's what you want to do, don't have your other brother take video of it and release it on social media. You can have a private life. Everything doesn't have to be public. You can present yourself like a quarterback publicly on social media where you control things. You can do that. You don't have to let people know, hey, I want to be a rapper too. When Cam Newton came into the NFL talking about I want to be an icon as well as a quarterback, it was an indication like, oh, I'm not going to put my full energy into being a quarterback. I want to be an icon. And that's why I'm going to dress up like a clown and wear these crazy hairstyles and focus on everything other than the fundamentals of the quarterback position. And that's why he tapped out and peaked very early, and then his career went into the toilet. Cam Newton's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the history of football, and he tapped out early because his focus wasn't on mastering the quarterback position. It was on being an icon. Deion Sanders, defensive back, wanted to be an icon. He played football. He played baseball. He was a rapper. He did everything. Shedeur is playing a position that still requires a level of focus that Deion has not prepared him for. And because Deion thrives off of having groupies and fans, I don't think Shedeur is going to handle well having all of these public groupies, the Ryan Clarks of the world, former Pittsburgh Steeler, NFL broadcaster, who's basically praying for Shedeur Sanders to be drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, to be this invested. Let's play. Here's Ryan Clark, I believe, as he's waiting for the Pittsburgh Steelers pick at number 21. Play the clip. What the
defense, Pittsburgh. Come on now. I mean, Dewey, he's a good player. Mason Rudolph? Mason Rudolph? He's all right. He went to Tennessee and got worse. You know what we're going to do? Oh, let's wait for Aaron. Wait for Aaron to make a decision.
Listen, Aaron gonna call Aaron. Give him a call.
We let Aaron Rodgers hold us hostage like we a four. We the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're supposed to be acting like a 10. We acting like a 4, like we growing up. He thought they were gonna grab Shedeur. Even he thought it.
That's the other five front though.
He really is a good player.
And someone in the chat has made the perfect point, missing 411. Drafting Shedeur is inviting the circus to town. And the last time we had that, there's been two examples of that. Tim Tebow, who I like, but he brought a circus with him, a lot of attention that took it off the team and was just at the quarterback position. And then Colin Kaepernick was a circus. The circus doesn't work at the quarterback position. Deion Sanders is the circus. He's put that circus on his son. And now they'll sit around and blame racism, and the NFL is just not ready for a confident quarterback like Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is not confident. He's insecure. That's why he puts on $500,000 chains on draft night. That's not a sign of security. It's a big red flag of insecurity. Wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting the Harmony channel. Tell your friends. Make sure you're hitting subscribe. Make sure you're hitting the likes. Make sure you're telling your friends about this channel where we take the conversations in a little different directions than we do on the main channel. Appreciate those of you all that are subscribing and sharing the content. We'll play Harmony, and we'll see you next time.
Up so divided, stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall.